I think it would only be fair to call the topic of today's episode the most famous steam tram locomotive of the Netherlands. It went from a static exhibit drenched with salt to a preserved locomotive on one of the most famous heritage railways of the Netherlands. I present to you Bello. Around the 1900s, the Dutch railway network was a nice mess. Several railway companies divided the exploitation of the railways amongst themselves, with the Hollandsche IJzeren Spoorwegmaatschappij, HSM, being one of the largest. With the expansion of the railway network, the HSM was in need of a new class of tank engines to serve the branch lines in the north of the country. The new class of machines was ordered at Werkspoor, but also at Henschel and Sohn, and finally also at Schwarzkopf in Berlin. By 1905, the first of the new class would enter service. The entire class, known as the HSM 1005 to 1048, would be in service by 1915. A total of 44 machines were ordered, meant for both branch line passenger services and mixed traffic trains. When the Staatsspoorwegen, SS, and the HSM combined their forces in 1921 as the prelude to the nationalization and creation of the Nederlandsche Spoorwegen, NS, the class HSM 1005 through 1048 would receive a new designation, the class NS 7700. Once the year 1935 came around, the class NS 7700 would get one new assignment, running steam tram services. This is where our sole survivor comes into the picture. Before we go to the personal history of this railway heritage gem, let's first have a look at the statistics and performance of these little tank engines. The 060 class NS 7700 is a bit different when comparing it to the other tank engines we have discussed before in this series. This one is the first class of tank engine not specifically built for industrial work or shunting duties. As you might imagine, with a length of 8.2 meters, it was still used for shunting anyways, especially in the transitional period to nationalization under the NS. The most surprising detail, at a weight of 28.5 tons, these tank engines are capable of reaching speeds up to 65 kilometers an hour. That is very impressive for a tank engine. As said before, there is only one survivor of the class NS 7700. This is the NS 7742, who is better known as Bello, the nickname given because of the loco's tramway bell. Bello was built in the year 1914 and was part of the final batch of the NS 7700s. The locomotives NS 7737 through NS 7744 would end up at the steam depot in Alkmaar in 1932, where they would receive the adjustments needed to pull tram services to Bergen aan Zee, but also to Egmond aan Zee. Although the services were maintained until 1955, the NS was seeing a steep decline in passengers on these tramways, all because of the widespread usage of cars. By 1955, NS 7742 Bello would pull the very last tram service to Bergen aan Zee. It was the little coastal village itself that would ask the NS to provide them Bello, as they intended to turn her into a monument to remind them of their tramway heritage. Bello would be put on a pedestal in 1960 and would stay there until 1978. When a little heritage railway called Stoomparade Hoorn-Medemblik, SHM, started looking around for rolling stock, they found Bello relatively quickly. For the symbolic sum of 1 gulden, Bello was sold to the Heritage Railway and a large overhaul would start immediately. Large parts of the frames needed to be replaced, and the same could be said for the boiler, as most of these parts were damaged by the long exposure to salty sea air. Finally, in 1985, NS 7742 would drive under its own power again, being shown to visitors. Bello still runs to this day, with now plans being proposed to rebuild a full set of her original carriages, one already completed and running along her on the Heritage Line. Some say this little green tank engine doesn't deserve the hype it gets, but I would say it is rather appropriate. It has such an inspiring backstory. In spirit, Bello's story reminds me of a little Ella Niar tram engine in some Anglican Reverence children's story. If you want to see Bello in real life, consider visiting Stoomparade Hoorn-Medemblik. A link to their website will be included in the description below. Oh well, I'm chuffing off for now. Until next time.